Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you want to see next.
The story begins at a school, where the students were getting excited. The Beastmaster exam was just around the corner, with less than a week to go, and tomorrow marked the day of the Beastmaster qualification assessment, and since everyone had already contracted their first beast, they were advised to get plenty of rest today and prepare thoroughly, striving to achieve good results. Some students were understandably nervous about this, rightfully so, since passing the apprentice level wasn't exactly a walk in the park. Success hinged entirely on their abilities. While some dared to dream big and were already planning their next steps, like enrolling in the prestigious Beastmaster Academy at Ningjiang City, others were already tweaking out because failure meant a one-way ticket to Ordinaryville for the rest of their lives. But even with all this tension in the air, our main character was just chilling, unbothered no less. Just like any story, he was actually a transmigrator. Just a week ago, he got into this body and integrate with the body's memory. Through it, it became clear to him what kind of world he was in. 100 years ago, during catastrophe, countless ferocious beasts emerged from the dimensional rifts, hunting and slaughtering humanity, causing a lot of suffering to everyone. And of course, humanity didn't take that lying down, they fought back. Humans were the master of I understand it now type shit. So in the midst of the brutal war, they adapted and gradually figured out the techniques to tame the ferocious beasts and control them to fight. Thus, the Beastmaster profession came into existence. In this era of beast taming, beast tamers have naturally become symbols of status and rank. It can be said that as long as one become a Beastmaster, it would mean entering the elite class of society. So for the youngins in this world, the biggest dream is to become a powerful spirit master. Thankfully, all people who turn 18 or older can contract their first beast. The stronger their soul is, the higher the level limit of the pet beast that can be contracted. However, none of this had anything to do with our main guy, because the original owner of his body before he traveled through space had already contracted their first beast. And it was a weak-ass snowball, that's so harmless to human and animal alike. The only thing it could do is act cute. And cute wasn't going to cut it. Furthermore, this little shit couldn't even evolve. So it looks like our boy's going to have to live being a bottom for the rest of his life. With this in mind, he sat sulking in the corner, thinking about all those other lucky transmigrators who hit the jackpot right out the gate. But brooding wasn't even a luxury for him, as he was an easy target for bullying thanks to his predicament. They were all getting comfortable dissing him left and right because they knew he didn't have the power to clap back. Fortunately for him, fate was a W-man. The deity of this world said I got you, and gave Lindsay a system. Turns out the only reason it showed up late was because it was charging. Like, come on, they really have to come up with a better excuse for this. If you are just going to give a system to the main guy, just give it outright. You don't have to act like he's got nothing and then slap a system on him the next page. Shit's overused. But that's just me, I guess. Anyway, Lin immediately started to celebrate. This is what he had been looking for. The premium shit that came with getting transmigrated. His own galaxy gas. And so he jumped right in to see what this system had in store for him. And just as expected, it delivered. He got achievement points and bonus items just for having a contracted beast. And he could even use this said points to increase the growth of his beast, unlock abilities, and strengthen attributes and more. This was overpowered already, but it gets better, as Lin just realized that his snowball actually has a growth rate, meaning, once it reaches 100%, evolution will be triggered, and this made him think a little bit, maybe too much. After all, it was known that these snowballs can't evolve. There was no data around it. So he was thinking, how could he evolve this? Fortunately, before he could fry his brain with all that thinking, his system gave him a little boost by showing evolution paths for his snowball. With this, he realized that this could be a hidden evolutionary route only possible because of his system. First up was the giant route, where Snowball could evolve into a massive beast, kind of like that snow giant Elsa has. Then there was the queen route, which basically lets Snowball evolve into Elsa herself. And let's be real, the Gooners would pick this one every time, even if it was trash. But luckily it wasn't, as it came loaded with tons of crowd control, buffs, debuffs, and it could even evolve further into a king-rank beast. So it was obvious from the start what route our boy Lin was going to choose. But it seems like there was a condition to be met for this evolution. Fortunately, he still got them achievement points. Upon claiming it, he went ahead and used this to boost his snowball's growth rate. This was forceful, yet wasn't harmful to the little guy at all. It was even smiling after it reached the 100%. Unfortunately, the process was rather costly. His 100 points turned to 23. He still have to prepare the Ice Elemental Essence and Spirit Jade. 20 of this element essence and 1 jade at most. And these things aren't cheap. and so he decided to go get that money, and then go to the pet shop to buy some evolution mats. But the bullies can't even let him leave in peace. But with this system boosting his ego, Lin snapped back, calling them trash, and you see that struck a nerve. The guy's veins was about to pop out like that was the most disrespectful diss he ever heard. And Lin doesn't have time or power to deal with freaks like that, so he decided to get out of the situation the only way he knew how, puffing his jacket like he was straight up from the 2000 teen movies. Surprisingly, it was extremely effective. As the bullies started laughing at him profusely, one of them was even doing the Chris Evans laughing pose. But out of nowhere, a wild woman appeared. She stepped in and tried to threaten the bullies to back off. Problem was, she was so ridiculously stacked that the bullies weren't scared at all. They even tried shooting their shot. But Sue Storm over here wasn't about to entertain some low-tier trash, and she was way more interested with our boy Lindsay, who in turn appreciated her kind gesture and informed her where he was headed next. A few moments later, Lin had got what he wanted, using all his savings to buy the materials, and was about to go back to his apartment. But our boy's Riz was unmatched. Even with his trash-tier abilities, he had some serious motion going on. The woman from before appeared right behind him, and asked him to her house for a dinner. If that ain't enough of a clue, she went ahead and fixed her hair and started blushing, while asking him if he would like to go with her to the beast qualification assessment tomorrow. Luckily, Lin wasn't one of those wimpy MCs who get all flustered and run off. Lin was different, and so he accepted that offer without hesitation, which made the woman beam with happiness. She gave him a wave and said goodbye as she walked away. After that, Lin quickly goes to his room and took out the materials and gave it to the little guy, which it didn't hesitate to gobble them up like the crystals was illegal or something. After it was done, it started to glow and get big, as sign it was going to evolve. And it did just that. The little monster in front of him began sprouting limbs, and the next thing Lin knew, a burst of icy air spread across every corner of his apartment. There was no doubt. The evolution process was a success. His snowball had transformed into an ice crystal spirit and reached rank 2, stage 2. Not only that, but it now had an icicle skill and even its own domain ability. It was already OP from the start, but Lin knew it could still get better. Its next evolution path? The Snow Maiden. And based on his progress, it wouldn't be long until the next evolution. This pace was unbelievable, a feat that far surpasses others who had the same age as him, as the average strength in their school is only between the 3rd and 5th stage of rank 1. And that wasn't all. His beast's power had grown even more than he imagined. Just standing near it made him feel like he'd walked into a freezer. But the blessings didn't stop there. Thanks to the successful evolution, he completed another achievement, earning himself 100 points and a strength crystal. Speaking of evolutions, if it wasn't for the system telling him the materials outright, no one would be able to know such a weak beast would have such a powerful evolution path. But with that said, the system rewards is also very helpful. Just with the achievements, he had gained a spirit crystal and a strength crystal. These items were insanely rare, so getting even one from achievements was a huge deal. Spirit crystals could boost spiritual strength, which determined how many beasts he could contract and their level. Meanwhile, the strength crystal directly enhanced his physical fitness. With this, he didn't think twice to consume it. Instantly, the crystals took effect. Aura burst out of him like he entered flow state. But this wasn't all for show, as both his physique and spirit had increased by 1 point, and his spirit power gained additional 100. With this change, he could no longer feel the cold, and he feel a steady stream of strength coming out of him. Although there's no need for him to personally participate in battles, it is always good to be physically strong. After all, if you can punch a hole in a concrete wall, your survival odds are definitely better than your opponent's. But this wasn't the time to get complacent. He still had unused points, so he decided to go all in. He bumped his ice spirit up to stage 4, a massive upgrade that you could even see in its eyes. Lin could feel the difference too, and his confidence skyrocketed. He was sure they'd crush tomorrow's advanced assessment. The next day arrived, and as promised, Lin showed up with Guaning. She immediately noticed his sudden shift in attitude, which was definitely a welcome change. But from others' perspectives, they looked like an unusual pair. And of course, the wild hoes couldn't mind their own damn business like normal people, and started sharing their thoughts, as if they were that important to begin with. Thinking that Guaning is better off not being near with Lin, since she is a top student, while Lin is just a loser with a trash beast. Moreover, the top one from other school had confessed their love to her, but she just rejected him. But plot twist. Guaning turned out to be Lin's cousin. Weird, considering all the blushing from earlier. But maybe she's just shy. Who knows where this is going? All I know is she's stacked front and back, but I digress. Guaning asked if he is really planning to use the snowball in the assessment, which he gladly confirmed with excitement, thinking what he would do later. Which also excited Guaning, prompting her to give him the classic headlock, leaving my boy blushing even though they are cousins. Luckily, this Alabama moment was stopped by someone accusing Guaning of stealing their man, which of course Guaning doesn't remember. And so Midget shout his lover's name, prompting her to remember that majestic-looking dude with rainbow hair. But she clarified that the midget was mistaken, and that she never seduced him. In fact, she even rejected the fool. But Mouse Ears wouldn't believe such thing, so she accused her more. But Guaning had enough, and was about to leave to the midget's own tantrums. But she was just stopped by the mouse head's brother. Unfortunately for him, this gal was just different. Look at her face. She was ready to throw them hands right then and there. Blondie, however, was all about that gender equality life. He didn't care if he was about to catch a case. He wound up like he was about to end it all. Lucky for him, Lin stepped in at just the right moment, stopping the attack and catching everyone off guard. Still, they thought he just got lucky. But my boy proved them wrong, as he sends the blondie crashing down the pavement. After that, he approached the dude slowly, 'cause he knows he's cooking, and clarified to everyone that he is Guaning's brother. So if they need something, they should ask him first. Meanwhile, Guaning was just as shocked as them. She didn't know her cousin had moves like that. And to be honest, neither did Lin. He hadn't expected his strength to be this insane after just one measly point increase. But the fight wasn't over just yet. The blondie stood up and summoned his beast, a rank 2 ghost wolf. And it looked so badass. And with its rank 2 status, the blondie thought he was winning. And he wasn't wrong at all, since Guaning only has a rank 1 stage 7 beast with her. So the chance of her winning was slim. Unfortunately for him though, Lindsay was there, and you know he got this in the bag. But the people around him surely doesn't. So Guaning can't help herself but be worried. But Lin just gave her a reassuring smile and said he couldn't let her get injured since it might mess up her qualification assessment. You know he just added that shit just to look cool. But still, Mouse and her brother thought he was all talk, especially when he is known for being a student with the worst qualification of them all. And so Blondie sends his ghost wolf to charge at him head on. A choice they would soon regret. As soon as the wolf got close, its entire body started freezing solid. This was all thanks to the extreme cold domain expansion by the ice spirit. In the blink of an eye, the mighty ghost wolf was nothing but an ice sculpture. Blondie and his crew stood there, speechless, shocked, flabbergasted. Even Guaning was in disbelief. This wasn't the weak little snowball she knew. Before she could ask, Lin casually clarified that it had evolved. Meanwhile, Blondie was still trying to fight, yelling commands at his beast to move, as if he couldn't see it was already a popsicle. And unfortunately for Blondie, Lin wasn't playing around. He commanded his ice spirit to obliterate what was left of the ghost wolf, shattering it into ice shards. They didn't have to go that hard, but they did. Straight up annihilating someone's Pokemon like that? Downright horrendous. But there was nothing Blondie could do except scream in agony. Still, what was done, and so the siblings were about to leave like nothing happened. Unfortunately for them, Lin was a D1 crash-out. He wasn't about to let anyone go until he said so. He pointed those icicles straight at the siblings like committing a double homicide wouldn't land him behind bars. At this point, Blondie started sweating, as he just realized he was actually up against a psycho. But the guy was smart. He wasn't about to let his pride get the better of him in this life-and-death situations. Without hesitation, he slid into that full Japanese apology pose, admitting his mistakes. But Lin clarified that he isn't the one they should apologize to. So Blondie immediately turned to Guaning. But somehow, Mouse Ears don't get the memo, and started questioning her brother's action. And so he rocked the fuck out of her to make her realize what situation she got them into. Fortunately for her, that backhand beating was enough for Lin to let this matter slide. After the siblings were out of view, Guaning started celebrating. She never knew her cousin was this amazing. And his beast even evolves, which made her question if it can evolve more. To which he confirmed, but that conversation would be for later, as it seems like they don't have much time anymore. They needed to get to the qualification exam venue, so they didn't waste another second. The event was held at the Imperial Beast Association building, a grand place packed with tamers hoping to secure a bright future. At the center of it all stood the Origin Stone, a peculiar object with a jade-like crystal embedded in it. And everyone could feel the tension. as this was the last qualification assessment for this year. Meaning, some people will lose their Beastmaster's title forever if they fail this one. But my boy was chill. Instead of being stressed, bro was just aura farming. Gladly it was stopped, as a high-rank Beastmaster walks in and briefed them on what to do. Everyone had received a small bronze medal with the word low, medium, high, and superior. This coin is the key in entering the Origin Stone realm. The words written in the coins are the difficulty of the challenge. Harder it is, the richer the rewards will be. As they could see in the screen, the info of every difficulty was displayed on it. Low difficulty grants 1 spirit crystal, and 5% additional growth rate of designated beast. Medium grants 2 crystal, with 10 growth rate increase. High grants 3 spirit, 2 physique, 20% and a beast slot. Superior grants 5 spirit, 3 physique, 30% rate and a beast slot. Sheer number of rewards had the students hooked, especially with the allure of the superior difficulty. But deep down, they all knew the truth. Most of them didn't stand a chance. According to the stats, less than 1/10 could pass the high difficulty, so completing superior was basically a pipe dream. But before they could choose, the instructor gave them a little advice. Since this will be related to their future development, he urged them to reconsider and think carefully and choose the difficulty that suit them. Not too low, not too high, but just right. With this advice in mind, the numbers came in. 46 people chose low, 10 chose medium, 1 chose high, and, shockingly, 1 dared to go for superior. The room immediately buzzed with curiosity, paired with some ridicule. Who would be reckless enough to attempt the hardest difficulty? Most assumed it was just a mistake, a slip of the finger or something. Regardless, they were sure that this guy won't be able to apply for the Imperial Beast Academy this year, but as they look for that reckless someone, Guaning really didn't expect it to be his own cousin, so she reacted unknowingly, catching everyone's attention. Now all eyes were on Lin, and everyone was convinced he was an idiot. Even the instructor was in disbelief. He outright asked Lin if he'd made a mistake, but Lin, as calm as ever, confirmed that he hadn't. He assured everyone he'd carefully considered his choice. With this, the instructor stared Lin dead in the eye, unleashing that suffocating pressure while asking him again. But Lin was unbothered. His answer stayed the same. And so the instructor lets it be. The guy's got guts, but he still wasn't convinced he could pass this test. If this fool wanted to play with fire, then that ain't his problem. He got things to attend to, so he went ahead and started the assessment. The Origin Stone began gushing out a massive aura that engulfed all the students sitting before it, then sucked them in. And just like that, everyone was successfully transported inside the Origin Stone. Meanwhile, the instructor, still curious about Lin, kept a closer eye on him. He couldn't help but wonder if this kid actually had what it took to back up his words. Lin got up and took a good look around. They had entered a virtual realm of the Origin Stone. Injuries sustained here wouldn't carry over to reality, including the death of their beasts. Knowing this, Lin felt he had nothing to worry about. He could go all out without holding back. To his surprise, a system window popped up, reminding him of unclaimed achievement points and rewards from defeating the Ghost Wolf earlier. And this is just what he needed, so he claimed the rewards immediately, boosting his spirit attribute by 1 and leveling his ice spirit up to stage 6. With this power-up, Lin's confidence skyrocketed. He was more than ready to take on this challenge. First round of battle was a rank 1 stage 7 flame-type lizard. At first glance I thought that's the most disgusting 2-feet lizard I ever see, but it turns out it was just perspective. It was a normal-looking lizard that could shoot fireballs from its mouth. Since it was only rank 1, Lin's ice spirit had no trouble countering its fireball attacks. It nullified them like they were nothing and defeated the lizard without breaking a sweat, freezing it solid into a rock-hard snow sculpture just like the Ghost Wolf. But that was only the first challenge out of 5 levels, so another monster appeared from the left of the arena. It was an undead-type beast, the Bandage Monster, a rank 1 stage 9 entity. It seemed like with every monster, the levels kept getting higher. But since this was just another rank 1 beast, Lin didn't even bother making a spectacle. He killed it off screen like it was nothing. Meanwhile, the instructor kept watching him intently. Based on what Lin had shown so far, he couldn't deny the kid had skills. But he still wasn't fully convinced. After all, the opponents Lin had faced so far had an elemental disadvantage. However, the next monster was a different story. This was where the real challenge began. A plant-type beast stepped into the arena, a blight monster, boasting rank 2, stage 2 power. And the examiner over here is just a D1 hater. He didn't believe for a second that Lin would pass this test. He grossly underestimated our boy, fully convinced that Lin's beast was only rank 2 stage 1 at best, which was way off, but the blight monster was indeed formidable, as it could easily block the icicle attack by Lin, since it actually has a rough bark and thick flesh. With this, it even got to counter them, with its own special move, piercing the ground, to then sprout its vine under the ice spirit to entangle her and instantly zoom in for the kill. And Examiner was just all smug thinking he was right, a true hater indeed. But psych, the blight monster was just struck by that domain expansion, freezing it into place. Even its entanglement had frozen solid, so ice spirit easily breaks it by just a wiggle. And with the blight monster immobilized, Lin launched another icicle attack, which it was able to block again, but they weren't done, and just proved how OP they are by materializing the icicle on its back. And with it frozen in place, it couldn't even turn to defend, so it could only scream as Lin gave it a back shot. With that, they have passed the 3rd level, 2 levels remain. Meanwhile, others had already been booted back to reality. Most of them were either pissed off or crying, having failed to pass the test. None of them expected the 5th level of the lowest difficulty to be so brutal. Their opponent was already at rank 1 stage 6. On the flip side, some students were screaming with joy, thrilled that they'd succeeded, and were now officially on the path to becoming apprentice beastmasters. Of course, this earned them a few envious glares from those who had failed, but any jealousy quickly faded as a commotion started building near the origin stone. The crowd couldn't believe what they were seeing, a rank 2 beast appearing as an opponent in this assessment. They had assumed peak rank 1 would be the limit. And to make things even crazier, the guy tackling the superior difficulty had already cleared the 4th level. Turns out he had every right to be as confident as he was before. This guy was unbelievably strong, but no one could recall his name. They'd already memorized the top students from every school, and there was definitely no one like him on that list. Meanwhile, Guaning had just finished her own challenge, and it looked like she too had succeeded. But even she couldn't ignore what was happening at the origin stone. Watching closely, she was amazed at what her cousin had accomplished. No one here had done what Lin was doing, not even her. But it seemed the final challenge was on a whole different level. The opponent was revealed to be a rank 2, stage 5 Sabertooth, leaving every student in the room stunned. They couldn't fathom how a newcomer could possibly defeat something that powerful. But Lin wasn't fazed at all. He thought this was just another walk in the park, until Simba over here showed him that Hakuna Matata, dodging the attack, and suddenly blitzing to do a counter, sending the ice spirit to the back. The hit even chipped away a small chunk of the ice spirit's shoulder, proving it could deal real damage. Meanwhile, the examiner couldn't stop hating, silently rooting for this to be Lin's downfall. Lin, on the other hand, quickly realized it was time to take things seriously. Even though his ice spirit was 1 stage higher than the Sabertooth, victory wasn't a given. Winning wasn't just about levels after all. His beast was already drained from 4 back-to-back battles, and the Sabertooth was built for one-on-one combat. Its speed and power easily outclassed his ice spirits in this matchup. If things continued like this, defeat seemed inevitable. With that in mind, Lin decided to play it smart, holding back and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When the opportunity came, just an inch between the 2 beasts, he unleashed their icicle attack. The move landed perfectly, hitting the Sabertooth at point-blank range. But it wasn't a clean win. At the exact moment the icicle landed, the Sabertooth managed to clock its paw on the ice spirit, leaving both beasts sprawled on the ground. Everyone watching assumed it was a tie. The 2 monsters were on the ground, but the Sabertooth actually got up, and for a second, everyone thought it was over. But the examiner wasn't that easy to fool. He already knew the ice spirit was still alive. If it were actually dead, this simulation would have ended already. But instead of hoping Lin would fail, this time, he had a change of heart. He was actually impressed. No newbie should be able to hold their ground against a rank 2 stage 5 beast, which also meant the ice spirit was at least on the same level. And that was beyond impressive. On top of that, Lin wasn't just blindly fighting. He had the skill to come up with tactics mid-battle, under pressure, and execute them perfectly. His battle sense was top tier. No wonder this kid had the confidence to back up his actions. But it was way too early to celebrate. The fight wasn't over yet. The examiner refocused on the battlefield just as both beasts unleashed their domains. One radiated pure rage, while the other spread an ice domain so cold it could instantly freeze any lower-level beast. Unfortunately, the Sabertooth was built different. The cold didn't mean a damn thing to it. At best, it got some fresh new ice shoes for its paws. And the way it was grinning? Oh, you just knew this dude was feeling himself. Dog was enjoying this. With this, our boy Lin finally remembered. Saber-toothed lions were originally beasts from extremely cold regions, meaning this one had some serious cold resistance. And now, he could feel the pressure. If this dragged on any longer, he was definitely going to lose. But plot armor was working overtime today. Just when things were looking bad, another system interface popped up, coming in clutch to save his ass. He had just unlocked another achievement. His pet had used its skill for the 10th time, racking up 100 points and unlocking a brand new function. And this one? Oh, this one was straight up broken. He could actually add another skill to his beast. Which was crazy because normally beasts could only have 2 basic skills max. The more skills one had, the more combos and tactics they could pull off, and Lin had just gained an insane advantage. Right now, he had 3 choices. First, Arctic Chains, a control skill that locked down an enemy's movements. Second, Ice Shield, a defensive skill that could block attacks from any direction. And finally, Frost Nova, an AoE attack that compressed a ton of ice into a single point before detonating in an explosive burst of ice damage. All 3 skills were solid choices, but he could only pick one. He needed to choose the one that would help him the most in this situation, while also synergizing with his current abilities. His icicle attack relied more on control, and while Extreme Cold Realm had a wide range with both damage and crowd control, it still wasn't strong enough. What he needed right now was a powerful single-target control skill, something that could lock the Saber-tooth down for good. And that led him straight to Arctic Chains. Just as he made his choice, the Saber-tooth was already up close, mere inches away from tearing them apart. No time to hesitate. Lin instantly dumped the rest of his points into leveling up his ice spirit. The moment he did, a surge of energy burst from his beast, knocking the Saber-tooth back. And that wasn't even the best part. Not only had it powered up, but it had also completely restored its lost energy, like those last 4 battles never even happened. But of course, the Tamers watching this unfold were absolutely shook. Because seriously, how the hell does a beast level up mid-fight without even winning first? That wasn't just rare, it was straight up impossible. Did this Lin guy use some kind of item? Was he hacking? Nobody knew, but one thing was clear, something definitely wasn't adding up. But instead of the test getting held up, things just kept rolling. The Saber-tooth lunged forward again, only to get instantly bound by Lin's newly acquired Arctic Chains. And oh, it worked beautifully. Since the skill was physical, the Saber-tooth was completely locked down, unable to move, which gave Lin the perfect opening to unleash their icicle attack and finish the fight once and for all. And yeah, that was cool and all. But now even the examiner was visibly stunned. Because hold on a second, how the hell was Lin's pet using 3 skills? That wasn't just rare, it was straight up unheard of. And obviously, as a government official, the most logical thing to do here would be to stop the test immediately. Drag Lin into an interrogation room, or better yet, throw him and his pet into a lab, dissect them, and uncover this madness once and for all. But nope. We can't have our MC getting locked up before he even gets his clout. And it was illegal as well, so instead of doing any of that, they just let the test continue. And with that, Lin cleared the level. Meanwhile, Guaning was celebrating hard. Because, of course, that was her cousin pulling off these god-tier plays. While the rest of the Tamers, they were losing their minds. Some were jealous, some were just completely confused, and a few even started whispering about bribery. Which, honestly, how does that even make sense? Bribe an examiner? In a controlled simulation? Yeah, no, that was just straight up stupid. And as for the examiner, instead of being suspicious, all doubt in him vanished completely. He went from raising eyebrows to straight up respecting Lin, a complete 180 from how he was acting at the start. But hey, that's just how it is. And now, Lin was officially a celebrity. Thanks to that insane performance, he skyrocketed to fame, and as a bonus, his physique increased by 3 points, and his spirit jumped by 5. But the best part? He was now officially an apprentice. And that made him stupidly happy. Because becoming an apprentice meant one thing. He could contract a second beast, which was huge. The only problem was that there were way too many pets to choose from. Like, how was he even supposed to decide? He had no clue what to get yet. So for now, it looked like a trip to the pet shop was in his future. Maybe once he saw his options, he could find something that synergized well with his ice spirit. But of course, the system just couldn't stop being disgustingly OP. As if everything so far wasn't enough, it immediately hit him with another achievement for reaching apprentice rank, handing him a cool 200 points and a spirit stone on top of it. And before he could even process all that, bam! He was instantly teleported back to the real world, and the moment he reappeared, he found himself completely surrounded. Like, seriously, people were standing in circles around him, staring him down with wide eyes, all trying to figure out the same thing. How the hell did he just do all that? And even more importantly, what was up with that ice spirit? None of them had ever seen anything like it before, and just like that, he was immediately overwhelmed by the crowd. Luckily for him, his hot cousin was still around to bail him out, by giving him a hug. Which, not gonna lie, he appreciated that quite a lot. And I don't know about any of you watching, but this guy just cannot stop blushing whenever she's around. Like, damn. He better be a step-cousin or things are gonna start getting weird real fast. Meanwhile, the examiner went ahead and personally greeted Lin, showering him with praises. And he even took back everything he had said before. Yeah, he ain't stupid after all. This was actually shocking for everyone watching, because an examiner apologizing to a student was practically unheard of. So for him to publicly do this, it was a big deal, and there was only one reason why he'd go this far. And sure enough, Lin was right. The examiner wanted him to join the Tamers Association, not just as some low-level recruit either. They were offering him an officer position, with generous benefits and pay right off the bat. And the best part? This wouldn't even interfere with his application to the Imperial Beast Academy. In fact, they were throwing in a bonus deal. If he joined, he'd be instantly granted the title of Association Deacon the moment he graduated. And yeah, everyone was floored, because this wasn't just some random offer. This was extraordinary. Even Guaning was immediately urging Lin to accept, and honestly, who could blame her? Normally, only the most outstanding students who graduated from the Imperial Beast Academy were even eligible to take the test to join the Tamers Association. The competition is as fierce as 1,000 troops crossing a single plank bridge. So if our boy Lin accepted the offer now, he wouldn't have to worry about a single thing. Not tuition, not living expenses, nothing, for the next 4 years at the Imperial Beast Academy. And on top of that, everyone would have no choice but to look up to him. But he wasn't stupid. Lin knew there was no such thing as a free lunch. The more privileges he got now, the more he'd have to pay later. And the Beast Tamers Association came with a lot of rules. Rules he wasn't ready to be shackled by. He had no intention of losing his freedom this early. With that in mind, he politely thanked the examiner for the offer, but declined. He had already made up his mind. He would only join an organization after graduation. And just like that, everyone lost their damn minds. Who the hell turns down an offer like that? One guy even tried to shoot his shot, stepping up to take the offer instead. But the examiner didn't even acknowledge his existence, because his focus was locked on Lin. And instead of feeling offended, the examiner's admiration for him only grew. This kid wasn't just blindly chasing power, he actually knew how to think ahead. With the way Lin was growing, it was only a matter of time before he became hundreds of times stronger than he was now. At that point, he could demand the highest level of benefits from the Beast Tamers Association, not just this small offer. And it's not like the examiner could force him to accept anyway. So instead, he simply extended one last offer. If Lin ever had any requests, or if he ever changed his mind, he was welcome to find him anytime. His name is Genwen, and Lin made sure to remember that name, because having a connection like this was definitely worth keeping. With everything wrapped up, the students started heading out, going their separate ways. But not Lin and Guaning, because the moment they stepped outside, they were immediately stopped by Guaning's close friends, Xian and Xiaoyun. These two were from a neighboring class, and apparently they had taken an interest in Lin. So much so that they wanted his contact information. And they weren't exactly subtle about it. They even went as far as to boldly claim they had liked him from the very start. Which was straight up cap. But damn, them bitches got our Lin acting unwise. But he suddenly felt a seething presence behind him. That was definitely Guaning, and she was not happy. Sensing that his life expectancy might be dropping, Lin did the only thing that made sense. He dipped out of there. And as he made his escape, his phone buzzed. A text message had just come in, telling him to come to the office. Since the message was from his teacher, he didn't waste any time and went to meet up with her. And damn! His teacher had heard the news. He had passed the superior difficulty. And apparently that was enough for her to completely lose it. Because the moment she saw him, she straight up hugged him, tightly, like real tight, because according to her, She had always thought highly of him, which was a blatant lie, as Lin still remembered very clearly how she tried to whip him after seeing his grades. But hey, that was the past. No need to bring it up now, because at this moment, our boy was living the life. And so the teacher got to continue uninterrupted. The teacher got straight to the point and finally revealed why she had called him over. She wanted to give him a book, but not just any book. This was a basic spirit technique collection. It contained fundamental spirit cultivation methods and techniques, one of the compulsory courses for apprentice beastmasters. And since he had already made a name for himself, it was better for him to start getting familiar with it now. Because spirit techniques, right next to taming pet beasts, they were the most crucial tools for a beastmaster. A strong spirit technique could allow a beastmaster to fight without even relying on their pet. The most powerful ones could effortlessly take down ferocious beasts on their own. Not only could they be used to fight alongside a pet beast, but they also acted as life-saving techniques, providing defense in battles where a beastmaster would otherwise be vulnerable. And yeah, that was insanely useful. Lin wasn't about to say no to that. So he thanked his teacher, which she clearly enjoyed quite a lot. In fact, she was so pleased that she offered to personally guide him whenever he needed help. If he ever had questions or needed training, he was welcome to visit her any time. A few moments later, Lin got home. He grabbed the book and started reading. And that's when he came across a technique called Spirit Guardian. This technique created a powerful shield that could block damage from all directions by consuming spirit power. It was the most basic spirit skill, but also the most essential. Master the basics first, that was the plan. Once he had that down, he could move on to more advanced techniques when he entered the Imperial Beast Academy. And so, without hesitation, he got to training. And in just 10 minutes, boom. He had already formed a spirit shield. And not just that, he had basically mastered it, which was crazy. The average person would take days, maybe even months, to fully grasp a spirit technique, but he only needed a few minutes. So it seems like his spirit constitution of 7.8 was definitely working overtime, a very useful stat indeed. And because of that ridiculous speed run, he had unlocked yet another achievement. His total points shot up to 350, so naturally he decided to test something out. He spent 50 points to upgrade his shield, and to his surprise, it worked. This system was straight up broken. But that would be all for today, so tune in next time for more.